Hey there, I'm Dakini Leah, and you are watching Revealed. This is a live stream broadcast with somebody amazing, and I know you're going to love her, and I'm going to bring her to you in 30 seconds. So make yourself comfortable, get yourself something to drink, and come and join me for Revealed with Sue Mason. Hey there, I'm Dakini Leah, and you are watching Revealed. I just realized, I think, that my mic was muted a little bit earlier. So if you didn't hear me, I am really excited to be bringing to you this incredible person who has changed my life. She's a certified relationship coach, and I have never met anybody who has such helpful skills and such a warm, loving demeanor. So I know that you are going to love her. And today we are talking about how to fight fair. This woman knows how to fight fair. But before I introduce to you Sue Mason, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am Dakini Leah. I'm a certified Tantra educator. I am the facilitator of the world's only online tantric meditation community, and you are warmly invited to join us. You can go to livingintantra.com, and check out how you can use your sacred sexual energy to heal, to increase intimacy with your partner, and to reach your self-development goals. But enough about me. You came here to see Sue, and I don't blame you. She is pretty amazing. Sue, I've got my little thing written down about her now. Sue specializes in conscious uncoupling. She actually trained with one of my favorite authors, Catherine Woodward Thomas. So she helps people get through really difficult things without tearing each other apart. But if you're not breaking up, or at least you don't want to break up, Sue has some really excellent skills for how to fight fair, how to fight without tearing each other to pieces so that you can maintain your relationship. She lives in beautiful Paonia, Colorado. She sees people on site and online. And without further ado, let me bring Sue online. Hello there, beautiful lady. It's so good to see you.
Thank you so much for the generous intro.
Well, it's all true. It's not exactly generous. It's just a good observation. You're really wonderful, and more people need to know about what you do, because there are so many horror stories that I hear of couples who go to therapy and it just does not work. In fact, it makes things worse for them. And I've been in and out of seeing people for so long. And I know you are not a therapist, you are a coach, but you offer things that are truly helpful. So let's kind of dive into it. We know that lovers can be so sweet and kind when they're feeling good about their relationship, but when it's like the slightest little thing can trigger people and they turn really sour and bitter and sometimes even injurious to each other. Like they come at each other with their claws, you know.
Yeah.
Why do we do that in relationship? What's going on there?
Well, there's a lot going on, but trying to bring it down to a couple of things that might make sense. One is knowing about the relationship cycle that we enter into in a relationship. And it has three phases. The first being romantic, connective, honeymoon, easy. The second phase are when differences show up, huge differences, conflicts of needs, um, wrinkles and warts, failings of the other, and our needs conflict. We have a collision, and most people don't know how to navigate that part of the cycle. The cycle, if I could name the whole thing, is connection, disconnection, and then reconnection. Most of us do not know how to go from disconnection to reconnection, also called repair, and then travel back around again to connection. Relationship is that cycle. And so if we don't know how to navigate it to come back to connect again and go through all three phases, we usually stay stuck in phase two. Phase two is very, very difficult. It's when that person that we thought was the most beautiful, magical god or goddess in the world shows up as real, and everything collides. The second thing that causes this inflammation of fight is that when we're in stage 2, phase 2 of the whole cycle, the primitive brain kicks in. Whenever the nervous system registers any kind of danger or threat, which does happen in stage 2 when those differences collide, we go to the primitive brain. We're downloaded in a millisecond and flooded with fight, flight, or freeze, all those things, right? So we
Mm.
operate from there. And the point is that when we are in the primitive brain, we can call it the first brain, the primitive brain, we do not learn or use connection skills.
Hmm. So we're
We
stuck in
don't
that.
ever. We're
We're
stuck.
stuck
Yeah,
in fight or flight or freeze, and that's not a place where we can make reparations and reconnect with our partner.
correct. Correct. And what it takes is consciously creating safety somatically in the nervous system over and over and over, so that when we're hit with a trigger in a red hot moment, we know what to do rather
Mm.
than react from the primitive brain. So Tara Brach uses this example. This is your brain, my hand. Say this is your brain.
This is your
Uh,
brain.
you- and inside, here's the limbic, that the part of the brain that goes into download of biochemicals when we're in danger or threat. Here's our frontal lobes. They normally wrap over the brain. Now, the frontal lobes are calm, present to you, listening, reasonable, not reactive, right? When the frontal lobes are online. When we
Mhm.
get to primitive brain and we're in threat or danger, and that informs our nervous system, our frontal lobes go offline and the limbic takes over. And then we front load our attention on all that our partner does wrong. We completely captured by their lesser consciousness and failings. We forget this godlike person or goddess that we knew and
Mm.
operating from that level. We get caught in it. We get stuck in it because we haven't been trained or educated how to navigate, how to reconnect through repair, etc., to come back around again to connection. It's
So
awful.
when the frontal lobe, the calm part, somehow gets triggered away and we start to
This is
react
actually,
from
yes,
fight or flight or freeze mechanism, this primitive brain that's what's there to protect us, to keep us safe from tigers
correct,
and woolly
correct.
mammoths and things.
It's really
That
old.
it's really old, and it's also to me, it sounds like it's kind of short-sighted, like it wants to see the other partner, or that it almost wants to say, "Hey, here are all the things about you that I really don't like, that are taking me by surprise, that I didn't realize how awful and horrible you were." And that's the cycle that we get stuck in when we're thinking about our
Yes,
partner.
it is, and what we do with it is that the third part of it is that we bring in patterns from our childhood called the adaptive child that we learned really early to survive that childhood environment to protect ourselves. We bring those same patterns that are not sustainable long term into our adult relationship, and so does our partner. And so we actually have our adaptive child fighting the other's adaptive child.
So we're
And
like two little kids going at it.
and the idea is to be able to step outside of the pattern that we're inside of and do something new. But that takes, again, introducing safety to the nervous system or using the frontal lobes or the higher brain, the prefrontal cortex, wise adult, mystic parent, you name it, right? Learning
Sparks.
how to, yeah, learning how to go into that place as a preemptive mood with practice so that when you're in it, you can choose to do that. So the shorthand of it all is like this. The shorthand is that you commit to use the heat of the moment. You commit to use this heat of the moment to do your own work first, rather
Hmm.
than point the finger. And the second step is that you use that time to go to your higher brain or your mystic parent, your wise adult that's calm can be present to the other. Literally your nervous system calms down.
Mm.
Your frontal lobes come back online. You're calm. And then you use a connection skill to grow the relationship. That's
Let's talk more about that. Let's talk more about in the moment, like being really heated and really triggered, and it's just obvious to you that the other person is wrong and bad and maybe even toxic and
Mhm,
furious, and you just want to get out of there, and maybe you
mhm,
even hurt them back.
mhm.
So when you're in that moment of temper, what do you do to calm yourself down so you can reach those higher states?
First, you will have practiced it. And I have a handout that anyone that videos that emails me, I have a handout for that people could practice. So you get it into your system because the moment that you are spiked and overwhelmed, the moment you are that way, it's really difficult. It's like turning like a cargo ship around in the sea. It's very slow. It's like, okay, how do I, because the other is so powerful in our system. So preemptively you practice it. And then you make a commitment. When the heat of the moment arises, I am going to do a couple of things. I am going to use it to do my own work first. I'm going to change my move first. So I might need to say to myself, stop, breathe, and think on purpose and really stop what you're doing. And then you can tell your partner it's called responsibly distancing. Like I need to go take care of myself and outside or in the next room. I really want to yell back at you and hurt you right now. I'm really, really spiked and triggered and overwhelmed. And I don't want to because I want to keep the integrity of our relationship.
Mm,
So I'm going to go away for 10 minutes and I will come back on the dot. And you must do that.
mm,
Come back. So while you're away, you breathe, you take a brisk walk, you do what you know to do to get centered. There's a variety of all kinds of things to do to regulate. And you
mm,
come back to presence and you get really centered. And during that time, you might want to connect with what your real need is. Like, what is my need that's not being addressed? Also, what is my partner's need?
mm,
What is the undertone there? Live into that, feel into that. They might be communicating really badly, and they might be communicating in a very triggered, stressful, hostile way. And you want to ask the question, like, maybe you could ask, what's the informative gift in that communication?
mm.
Right? And try to,
Yes.
I know that there's been times when my partner has been in the heights of stress. He's an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
communicated things to me that like, okay, it's over, I'm cut in half, it's like, my God. But
Right.
if I use that reframe, that sentence, breathe, take care of myself, go away for a little bit, ask the question, what is the informative gift in his communication? What I come up with is something like, he's really trying to tell me how I can love him, but he's just not doing it well.
Mm,
So I can't hold that against him. We can talk about that later. But anyway, you responsibly distance to take care of yourself. You commit to use the heat of the moment to take care of yourself and change your own move first. If I said nothing else, you would have almost everything.
because that shifts you out of that lizard brain and into your higher thinking brain where you can think
Right.
rationally and make better
Yeah,
decisions.
correct.
Yeah.
Your frontal lobes come online. You want to get them back online. Once they're online, you're going to come back. You want to give up, also being right about everything. You have to give that up to be able to connect. So I want to mention that. You give up being right. And you come back in your frontal lobe's wise adult. And some of the things you might want to try first is listening to your partner
Mm,
and just validating back what they want heard. Trying that because they're the one that's really upset, came in that way, even though it resulted in you being upset. But now when you're back present, you might want to listen to them. And you actually use a connection skill like repair, like listening, active listening, those things that you can learn and we need to learn that are higher skills to create higher love that we're not taught. So you might have like a list of 10 things that you've learned, and you want to come back in and use that connection skill and listen. And then maybe you would move into um, talking about that question, what was the informative gift of the other's communication, negotiating about the real needs instead of superficially on top, and hearing each other.
If you're
Yeah,
just joining me, my guest is certified professional relationship coach Sue Mason, and she helps couples disagree without tearing each other apart. And I'm fascinated to listen to you talk this way because um, even though I know this material, I've read it in books and I've been in your office to hear you teach me these things. Um, I was kind of in crisis when I'm learning these things from you. Like I'm freaking out, right? My partner and I aren't getting along and we needed help in that moment. So
yeah,
I really appreciate what you say that we have to pave the road and learn these skills now while we're calm, while we can think rationally so that when we get to that place of being triggered, we know what to do and we have a little grease in the gears for calming ourselves down first.
right.
Um, what can I do then when I'm feeling really, really angry? And you mentioned withdraw for a little while, and you said 10 minutes. I think I would probably need longer than 10 minutes
Yeah,
to get
some
to.
people take a day. Some people take
Yeah,
a different day. But the point of the responsible distancing
the
is that
responsible.
whenever you say you're going to come back, you do. We never just slam the door and walk away
So we don't
because
say, hey, I need to take a breather. I don't know when I'm going to be back. It's, I will be back.
yes, you do that. And then when you say you're going to be back, say 10 o'clock tonight, if you can't actually come back yet and be present, you come at 10 and you say, I need another 12 hours. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 10. That way you're not triggering the whole abandonment trauma of the other person and making
Yeah.
them more angry. So if you can't come back, you check in at the time and reestablish a new time. It's called responsible distancing. What you're doing is signaling safety.
Responsible distancing. I really
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, it's really important
Yeah.
to keep cohesion, to keep the connection rather than just sever it off, you asshole. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But
No,
right.
that's what we say. Probably a lot worse than that too.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And so then it's difficult because the powerful biochemicals in our bloodstream floods our bloodstream and is powerful and takes over. And
Mhm.
that's what we're trying to counteract, to be able to get those frontal lobes back online and be able to operate from there, which is a process of reconnection and repair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about that process. So
Yeah.
I've been triggered really hard. I've done my responsible distancing. I feel calmer. I feel ready to listen now. But now I'm at the point where um, I know that I'm right and my partner's wrong. And even though I'm calmer and even though I love him, what I really want him to do is listen to me. And what you're suggesting is that first I begin by listening to him. Like,
Well, it's a possibility, but what you really want to do, and I'm going to try to make this really simple, like 3 little steps here, especially with what you just said. You want to be listened to. We'll use
mhm,
that as an example. Usually, what happens is that people take the stance of "I'm right." He never listens to me, and then he says, "Well, you're just too sensitive and too emotional." So both stay right, and they will fight over that for years, taking
yeah,
that stance and
yeah,
never budge. So you're going to come back in. Your frontal lobes are online. Your presence. You've been breathing. You're okay. You've done your own work to settle your system, and you're going to come back in and you're going to start out with making I statements, capital I statements. First you've got his attention. You might say, you might contract and say, could you listen to me for 5 minutes, 3 minutes without an opinion or interruption? That's what I need right now. Just set it up, okay? That's
Mm,
called contracting. Then you're
mm,
going to use I statements. When I experience not being listened to, I feel angry. I feel what?
whatever it is. I feel
Yeah,
frustrated. I feel
frustrated.
irritated.
Yeah.
I feel
I
dismissed.
I feel dismissed and I'm miserable. Notice those were all I statements.
Yeah.
You can't argue with I statements. If you say to him, you don't listen to me deep enough. I would like to be listened. That's an I statement, but you don't listen to me deep enough. And he says, well, you're too emotional. It goes on for too long. You can argue with that.
Yeah.
But if you say I statements, I feel miserable, frustrated. I'm not having a good time. I'm feeling really blah, blah, blah. You can't argue with that. So you've got his attention, you got his ears, and then you want to make a request, an open request with the phrase, would you be willing to take this is an example. I don't know what you would say, but would you be willing to take 5 minutes every day and practice listening to me with no interruption, opinion, or correction? Would you be willing to do that? I know you
Mm,
have it in you. It'd be a real favor for me if you could do that for me. You have no idea how it would enhance my feelings and our connection. It's a favor to me. Would you be willing to do that? And you make that request. Normally we complain, but you want to turn this into a very positive, open request with the phrase, would you be willing? Open
mm,
that you can say yes or no. Most likely, if you can gear it to around the limits of how long he could listen in this example, he would say yes. So let's
yeah.
say he says yes. So let's back up again. You've contracted so he can listen to you what you want right now. You've used I statements only. You've
Mhm.
given up being right. Nobody can be right with I statements. You are now making an open ended request with the phrase, would you be willing? And then he says yes. And now your job is to empower him. Thank you. How could I help you come through for me? What would you need to do that? Do you need a reminder? Do we need to set a time every day? A
Mm,
limit, just do it for a week? And he might say, well, okay, what you could do for me to help me come through for you is to remind me gently. No
nice.
anger and complaint, or no attack, or no blame. Just remind me gently and empower me that I'm capable of doing this.
Yeah. These are
And
people who are in touch with what they need. Oh, yeah, there's that. I'm in touch with what I need, and I'm willing to ask with
yeah.
kind words, with loving words. Yeah.
And what I do want to say about that what you just mentioned, of who people who are in touch with need,
Mm.
sometimes the work before all this is to go back and really develop a healthy relationship with themselves and to be
Yes.
taught how to do that with self-esteem, self-care, and boundaries first before any of this work. And that's actually more than half the people.
Wow, that's a big
Yeah.
number.
In our
Yeah.
culture, we lose connection in our culture very early. And that
Mm,
means we lose self-esteem, ability to have boundaries, and a healthy self-care. So that has
mm,
to be retaught and rebuilt first.
that has to come
Yeah,
first. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
If you're just joining us, I see people popping in and out. My guest today is certified professional relationship coach Sue Mason, and somebody I absolutely adore. This woman is so wise and full of chock full of wonderful things to share. So, Sue, talk to me a little bit about what it would look like to work directly with you, to bring my partner to you, and to really dig deep into learning some of these skills. What does coming to you for a session really look like? And the reason I ask this question is because so many people are just scared to go see a counselor or a therapist. They've had bad
Yeah,
experience. So, how is being in your room different, would you
yeah.
say?
So Number one, that distinction that I am not a psychotherapist. I am a certified coach in relationship work with a variety of teachers. And so therapy is often empathy based and about the past. And the coaching I do is how to create a new positive future that's going to grow. And so it's trauma informed, it's heart based. And I work with a couple's what's called paradynamics of how their patterns interrelate together and create a downward spiral
Mm.
and help them move, identify that pattern. We have a plan, we make a plan. We have let's try this for 6 weeks or 8 weeks and then see if we get there. This isn't open ended where we go on for a year. Let's get this through. Um, and so we take a look and we identify with a variety of methods what those paradynamics are, those patterns that we each bring to the relationship. And then we do the work. Um, there's top down work of building skills, and there's bottom up work of healing the inner child
Mm.
or developing a healthy relationship to oneself. Um, there's a lot of inner child work to do that. So we approach it both ways, top down and bottom up. And the
Mhm.
goal is to be able to step outside of the patterns we're inside of and to be able to learn the skills to move through the whole relationship cycle of connection, disconnection, reconnection, and back to connection. And so
Mm.
it's building a higher love and a capacity, an actual capacity to build a higher love as a team, as
Mm.
true partners who grow through time. So
Oh,
that's what it looks like. Yeah. Zoom or in person. Yeah.
Zoom or in person. And it's definitely worth it to go see Sue in person in lovely Paonia, Colorado, if you can get there, because it's just a beautiful place to be. The best of Colorado's beauty, I think, is in Paonia
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's her phone number there if you want to book Sue and learn more about the kind of coaching that she offers. You also have a little gift to offer today for people who are watching. You have an article. What is
Yeah.
your article and how do I get it?
You can email me. There's my email address. I see it. And I'll send it off. The article is about how to stay in relationship when there's a disagreement, and it's a practice on relational mindfulness. And we
Mm.
talked a bit about it through this talk. So
So
how
it sounds
to
like a good idea to read the article now before you get into a fight with your partner and have
yeah,
those tools at the ready.
it's a
Yes.
practice. It's a practice, and what we have to keep remembering is that relationship doesn't happen because we fall in love.
Mm.
We have to practice. That relationship is going to provide us with the depths of our woundedness arising within that relationship for the purpose of healing. And so we have to actually take it on versus be buried by it. And
Mm.
because we're having difficulty in that second phase of, oh my God, there's the failures of my partner, and we're reacting to that, that doesn't mean we have a bad relationship. It just means we're in that phase. And so we have to learn how to get out of it and move to the next phase of repair, reconnect to keep growing. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's just lovely. I know so
Well,
many people will benefit from working with you. So thank you so much for being my guest today. It's just great to
you
have
are so
you.
welcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Leah. It's
Bye.
wonderful.
Oh, that's Sue. She's so cool. I just love her so much. Do pop into her email, sue@susanlynmason.com, and grab that free article so that you can have these skills and be at the ready before a big fight happens between you and your partner. So I'm so glad that you are my guest today. If you want to learn more about meditating and tantra, this is what I offer. We use our sacred sexual energy for healing and self-development and intimacy. Then you can pop on over to my website, which is livingintantra.com, and learn more about it. Until then, I will see you next month. Thank you so much for joining me on Revealed.